Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and it seems like we all have a lot more free time on our hands. So I got thinking, how can I help participate in alleviating the boredom for a lot of folks out there? I think naturally making daily content is important, but what video in particular can I make to help aid in these times? And so I came up with this 10 video games that you can play during a quarantine. Now, I verified on Twitter to make sure that this video idea was okay, and out of the 100+ responses I got, they were all extremely positive. So if you don't like this, blame them. I'm kidding. Please do not. Now, before we get into my list, I want to lay out the criteria I established while creating this so that people know the lens I look through when making it. Number 1, the game must be time consuming. We're here to kill time, right? Number 2, outside of a few games on this list, I wanted to try to make more obscure selections. Obviously, I could sit here and go, play The Witcher, play Fallout, play Persona, but come on, those are obvious selections if you're trying to burn away a ton of time. I want to try to introduce people to new games at the same time as killing their time with this video. 3, it can't just be a mindless time sink. It has to be an actual good game. There are plenty of throwaway titles out there, but I wanted to make sure I picked legitimately well-received games. 4, if this list doesn't do it for you, that's okay, because GOG is having a sale right now. A lot of the games I'm going to recommend are currently on sale over there. Also, Humble Bundle has some great offers. Furthermore, I have some free-to-play games on this list, so maybe you've got laid off due to things happening right now. There are going to be some games out there I'm going to recommend for you folks, or maybe you just don't have a lot of money to spend. I wanted to make sure I covered all the bases. A lot of these games as well that I'm going to suggest are on the Xbox Game Pass, so just keep that in mind. I tried to keep value in mind too. Okay, so I mentioned obscurity, but this first one's not obscure. It's something that the internet won't shut the hell up about. But we're going to talk about Animal Crossing to just get it out of the way. Now, I've never played Animal Crossing before New Horizons. And while I like the game, I'm going to be brutally honest and say I don't know why everyone's crapping their pants over it. With that said, during the quarantine, this game is perfect. You see, the one element that makes Animal Crossing truly unique, in my opinion, is that every day there's something new happening on the island in real time. So each day you wake up and it's kind of like the first game you think about, even if you're really enjoying something else. Like, I'm loving Neo 2, but the first game I think about is always Animal Crossing, because I know something new is happening in my world and I want to rush to it as soon as possible. Having something inherently worth looking forward to every day during pretty dark times, I think, is a major positive. So definitely keep this one in mind. When it comes to the gameplay, as someone who's like a Dragon Quest Builders 2 purist, I really haven't seen anything that's been wholly unique to the series. Every day you're gonna wake up, you're gonna hit rocks, you're gonna collect some stones, some iron nuggets, you're gonna hit your trees, maybe you're gonna collect some branches, some hardwood, softwood, wood in general. You're gonna talk to your villagers, maybe get a couple new villagers out on some expeditions, sell some things to acquire some bells to pay off that loan for Tom Nook, maybe visit another friend's island, abuse their economy by selling your fruit over there. There's a lot of things to do, and it does quickly become addicting and engaging in a weird way where I'm like, one more trip of doing this, one more fishing trip, one more expedition. When you combine that with the sort of challenge system that the game has with the Nook Miles, where you can spend this currency on various upgrades for your character, plus the bells you can get are also able to be spent on a variety of things, but you have to balance that out with your loan. There is a lot here, but just the slow building world and having something to look forward to is really important during these times, so that's why I wanted to lead it off with this game. But now, let's get a little more obscure. Next on the list is Legends of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. So my audience really berated me to play this game. I played it back in 2015 for, I think, about 20 hours, and I did not like it initially. I was just coming off of Persona 4 Golden, and that sort of explains why, because this game borrows some elements from Persona that I'm going to get into, and I think Persona 4 is arguably one of the very best games ever made. So I went back to it this year after a lot of people suggested it to me, and I am in love with it. I am really, really liking it. And I think it's because I'm a little older now. I'm able to see how it separates itself from Persona and some of its really strong elements I'm about to get into. So let's start off with the combat. You're in an arena and you can freely run around. It's typical in the sense of targeting enemies' weaknesses with elements and doing extreme damage. There's also stamina that you have to balance, which is a whole other set of powers. But the core of all of the combat is the Argus. The Argus allows you to link up with your teammates, and when you link up with them, you can, for example, target an enemy's weakness, and when you do that, your teammate will follow up. Now, as you participate in battle, when you're linked to one of your friends, your link XP will go up. This ties in with the social element that the game has called bonding points. You can spend these bonding points during your free time to hang out with your classmates. And this is the one element that's incredibly familiar from Persona. You are living a specific student life while also running these secret missions underground without many other students knowing. Essentially, this academy that you are attending is supposed to be a military academy, and then you're going to end up sort of being assigned to one or the other at some point in time. But the class you're a part of, Class 7, is a whole different breed. And that interesting element in the first game is what's really carrying me along. Plus some of the well-established lore. The game's very political about social classes. Nobles look extremely down on the poor and middle class. They're just completely above them. And visiting various spots of the world and learning about how people treat others, plus the growing war in the background. There's a lot to absorb here. And what's great, and what I tried to keep in mind with all of these games on this list, is if you like this, there's a whole series of other games behind it. It's available on the PS4, the Switch, PS3, the Vita, and I really can't recommend it enough. I think because I'm mature enough, that's why I'm able to enjoy this one a lot more, but man, definitely give this one a look, because if you like it, you got a full series of JRPGs, and that will eat up a lot of your time. Staying on the Japanese game train, we're gonna ride it right along to Danganronpa. If you are familiar with my channel, you've probably heard me talk about this game before. I say with the utmost confidence that in the last decade, this is the best new IP to come out. It is incredibly well written. There's nothing at all like it. It is its very own beast, which makes it inherently special. And they are games that'll rip out your heart, stomp on it, make you feel things, and get you so emotionally invested beyond many other games out there. So what is Danganronpa? And once again, if you like this game, there are 3 other games in the series that you can play: 2, Ultra Despair Girls, and V3. Now, Danganronpa essentially plants you in a high school. Yes, I know, these games love their high schools, I get it, but this one's different. You and a bunch of other students have been trapped in this high school, and the only way out is murder. Now, similar to Persona and Trails of Cold Steel, you're gonna build up relationships with these people. You will once again be granted free time, you can learn about these characters, but the brutal reality is that those people that you may be investing your time in could be permanently wiped from the game based off how the story plays out. Now, there's no choice and consequence here. It is a linear running story, but it serves the series well because the way it's told, the mystery of Hope's Peak Academy, the mystery behind each student, who they are, who's the killer, who's innocent, who's gonna make it to the end, that will keep you on the edge of your seat through and through. So how does the gameplay work? Yes, it is a visual novel, but also you're gonna find yourself in class trials. Now I'm gonna limit the gameplay for that because I don't wanna spoil anything for you guys, but essentially what happens is someone will die and you have to investigate and find out who the murderer is. So you're gonna go around the school and look for clues, and as you round them up, a trial will then ensue where you're gonna debate with your classmates to help narrow down who the killer is. And it is easily the strongest part of the game. There is so much there. It's all fully voiced and it's incredible, and it gets better with every entry in the series. But the first one, man, if you like it, just know the game series amps up, and it does get longer. The first one took me about 28 hours to 30 hours to beat, in that range. Then there's also a school mode, which is sort of like a new game plus, and that's in each of the games. 2 is even longer at about 40 to 45 hours in that area. And then V3 can take you up to 60 hours. It's a really long game. And then there's a ton of endgame content in V3. So if you like the first Danganronpa, you got a lot of good shit coming your way. Number 4 is our first free-to-play game. It's a game I've put more time into than anything else in the last 3 years. Every time I check my hours on PlayStation at the end of each year, it's been at number 1. And that game is Smite. Smite is the best free-to-play game on the market as far as I am concerned. It is a third-person action MOBA, and I am beyond addicted to it for years and years and years. I've been playing this game since it was in its beta, and it is still a complete blast to play. Now, I'm not a huge fan of MOBAs that plant the camera right above your head and you have to click to move. I like how Smite is generally playing like a third-person action-adventure game where you can move around with the left stick, you can aim, shoot abilities with the face buttons. There's just something about that that feels a lot better. But the beauty of Smite is that you have no idea how every game is going to go. So it starts out the same. You got your duo lane, you got your mid lane, you got your solo lane. But will someone invade your camps? Will you instantly gain the edge and wipe out their team right away? Strategy, communication is also important here. It's the only game I can think of where legitimate seconds off the clock matter. Like if you miss farming in a lane for a couple of seconds, you're going to fall behind your opponent, who now will be a level ahead of you, and they'll have more gold, so they'll have more items, and they'll be having more abilities or more powerful versions of the abilities, and it just scales in a way that I have never seen with any other game. With that said, I also want to mention the community of Smite. Smite in general has very attentive developers who are always communicating with their fans and are always updating their game every single month, so it is a very active game that you'd be investing in. Furthermore, on console, it plays great. That's where I primarily play because that's where my squad plays. I think PC is apparently the best place to play, but I know PS4 is the #1 place to play in the terms of a player count. But the game has a very steep learning curve like any MOBA, and each role plays very differently, whether you're a mage, you're a hunter, an assassin, you're a solo laner, you're a support. You always end up finding your groove somewhere, and you stay in this one character and you get comfortable with them, and then you realize there's over 100 characters to play as, and it's all free, and you can access any of them, and none of the microtransactions are intrusive. It's all skins, voice packs, that's it. It's incredible. I can't believe the game's free. Number 5 is the Civilization series. I know this isn't really the most obscure recommendation, but I personally recall when I beat a campaign for Civ 5 that I uninstalled the game because I was like, this is a dangerous game. These are dangerous time sinks, and they are so fun, so gripping, and it's just like, whoa, stay away from me. But now, with nothing to do, take me away, absorb me. I don't really think that the Civilization series needs a lot of explanation. You hop in, it's from the very beginning of time, and you gradually build up, you guessed it, your civilization, investing in culture or technology or military, and choosing how you're gonna essentially take over the world in a manner of speaking. You can ally with different nations, you can decide to push them away, you can just be militaristic. I mean, it's ridiculous how much agency you have over the game, and like I said, complete time sink. Okay, this one I know might be a little weird, but hear me out, the Lego series. If you like one Lego game, there's a million Lego games, and plus they're all collectathons, easy 30-hour games. There's so many available, they're dirt cheap, and a lot of them are very good. Whether it be Lego Marvel Superheroes 1 or 2, both those games are great. You've got the DC superhero ones that are open world. You've got, of course, Avengers. You got Lord of the Rings. There's so many series. I probably missed a million. What, Star Wars? There's so many series that have been covered by the Lego games, and it's one of those innocent, fun things too, right? A lot of these games I've mentioned so far are serious or challenging, and I was like, what's something that's just genuine fun? You know, you press the square button, you attack enemies, you can customize your character. I mean, these games are just really charming. They'll always put a smile on your face. There's a lot to do in them, and it'll bring you back to maybe an easier time. When I think of Lego Star Wars 2, I think that was such a simple time, and so I fondly remember that. So while the Lego games may be great for kids, they're good for adults, young adults, man-child. I don't know what you'd call me. All right, I think we need to go back to the Japanese game selection. That's enough of that. We're gonna talk about Yakuza. Yakuza? I'm gonna say Yakuza. The Yakuza franchise is so much of what I loved about Shenmue, but modernized. You're gonna roam the streets of Kamurocho, and you don't know what's gonna happen out there, man. You might get ambushed, and when you do, it's an arcade battle system unlike anything else. The game has this incredible personality. It's super goofy. It's a huge beat 'em up. And in the 7th entry, they're turning it into a role-playing game with strategy elements. But in Yakuza Kiwami 2, there's an RTS game mode. It's insane how varied this franchise is. But what's amazing, actually amazing, is with all this gameplay variety and goofiness, the stories are strong. Like really gripping, intense investments. And I cannot recommend it enough because there's this polarization built right into the game. Like I said, there's a beat 'em up in there, but then on the other end, You've got these crazy mini games, the claw machine. You can race cars. You can play old fighting games from Sega. Like, it's insane, man. I really can't believe how much content is here. So whether you're looking for a really good story to take you away for about 15 hours, or you're looking for mini games just to suck you away from the entire package, or maybe you want to go on dates, visit dancing clubs, and some of the rewards at the end, I won't say what, are kind of wild. This franchise is perfect though. And like I just mentioned, there was a Yakuza 7 that's in development, and guess what? That means you've got 6 others to go through right now. If you end up enjoying just the first one or 0, I'd recommend hopping in with 0 first. That's what I've been told. I started off with Kiwami 1, played Kiwami 2, went back to 0. Whatever order you want to do it in is fine, but a lot of people say 0 is incredible and just start there. So maybe do that. All right, another free-to-play set of suggestions, an MMORPG. Nothing is more time-consuming than an MMORPG. Nothing will remove your life more. I remember when I was in 5th grade till 8th grade, so I was about, what, 10 to 13, 14, I want to say, I only played RuneScape. I only played that game, and I love me some classic RuneScape, but I also wanted to just suggest a breadth of MMORPGs, whether it would be RuneScape or, for me, more recently, Star Wars, The Old Republic. I really enjoy that one. That's also free to play. Now, this game isn't free to play, but it is one of my favorite MMOs, and that is Elder Scrolls Online. I think the storytelling and choices that you can make in the quests in ESO is definitely appealing. Also, the fact that it's a more modern, currently supported MMO probably makes it a more attractive offer. So if you like Tamriel Unlimited, which is available on Game Pass, if you can't get it on Game Pass, it's usually dirt cheap for like 300 hours of content. Then there are plenty of expansions backing this one up. So if you like it, there's a ton more to absorb for your character. And I always thoroughly enjoyed ESO. I have heard that in 2019 it had a bit of a rocky road. I'm not sure specifically why, but that is what I just heard from chatter amongst the community that I am in. With that said though, from a PvE standpoint, I really liked ESO. So if you're looking for quests and looting and exploring a world with friends, and something to get you all involved together in large groups and dungeons to delve into and whatnot, this game is great. It does exactly what people wanted Fallout 76 to do, where it sort of melds what's good about Elder Scrolls and then MMO elements together and sort of retains both identities. It may not be up everyone's alleys, but I think it's a respectable game at the least. All right, we're nearing the end here. So how about a more slow-paced RPG? We're gonna talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come is a very deliberate, slow-moving game, and I really like it for that. There's not many games that play like this title. If you have food in your backpack that will go bad over time, whether it gets moldy or it expires, and if you eat it, it'll hurt your character, but you need to eat to make sure that your character stays alive. Sleeping is important. Now, a lot of these mechanics that involve taking care of your main character, Henry of Skalitz, have been dialed back a little bit after the game had been fully patched. I used to cover this game a lot, and myself and my viewers had a discussion about how the realism could have taken away from the game a little bit, but now that it's been dialed in just right, and on top of that, you do have that time now to maybe invest yourself into a slower moving role-playing game. This title is great for that. The combat is really enjoyable, as it's not one of those power fantasies where you're going to take on 40 enemies at once. Maybe not until at least the end game where you have like really busted equipment, but as it stands heading into the game, you just want to stay in a one-on-one environment. The world then can feel dangerous because of that, so if you get ambushed by 3 bandits at nighttime, it can be really scary. I think it's got the most beautiful map of all time. I still adore this thing, but it also touches upon a point in history that I don't think any game really ever has. It's the Holy Roman Empire and Henry's involvement in that, and the wars going on and how it affects his lands. And the game sold pretty well, so I imagine a decent amount of people have played this game. But if you haven't, I mean, it's not like a top tier wow game, but it's really enjoyable. And like I said, I think what pushed a lot of people away was that it felt like you wouldn't have made a lot of progress in a short period of time. But if you have a lot of time to play this game, it may sync with you a lot better. All right, last on the list I thought long and hard about this one because I know it's a very popular name, but anytime I look at the sales for the series, it's always underperforming. So I figured I'd just throw it out there because they are relatively cheap games and all of them excellent. The Dishonored franchise. I love Dishonored from top to bottom. From the introduction to the sequel to spin-offs, it's consistent, incredible quality. And there's a wonderful universe built here with a legitimately good story. Plus, it's all about player choice. Not only are you decking out what powers you're going to explore these very open levels in, but how you tackle them will define the outcomes of the ending. If you're killing everybody, the world will respond to that. Guards will approach things differently. When you return to certain levels, they'll be transformed, and also the ending will change. And I think that's inherently exciting because then you have multiple paths. When you also look at something like Dishonored 2, which gives you two protagonists that play entirely different, and then two of their own endings for good and bad. It's insane. And then you look at the spin-off, which is a little more linear in the terms of its story and how it's handled, and it doesn't really punish you if you end up killing everybody or knocking them out. It's just like, hey, play the game. But it wraps up the series in a way that makes me feel really good and rewarded. But when you look at it as Dishonored 1, 2, Death of the Outsider, all the DLC, and how all of it's so good, there's a lot there to take in. Where once again, like a lot of this list, you like the first game, or maybe you only touched a little bit on the second game, now's a perfect time to go back to it. Especially 2, there's a lot of replayability. I would recommend starting with 1, personally, out of the whole franchise. That's my favorite one, but it doesn't mean that the rest are bad. It's just 2 gets so big and open that it might end up hurting the game. Like if you're trying to do a no-kill run in 2, it's just such a dynamic game that someone may accidentally die from like a fire across the map and you won't even know about it. So just keep that type of stuff in mind. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude 10 games that you can play during a quarantine. I hope you walked away with a new series that you may be interested in, or some idea came to mind during the video. I just overall hope this video has helped you in some way, shape, or form. And if it has helped you, I do ask that you share it. We're all sort of in the same boat here. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Are there any games in particular that I didn't suggest that you think would be great time killers around this time period? Let us know, and I'll talk with all of you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.